On this edition of Southern Newsweek, the government has announced when Aucklanders will start travelling around New Zealand and what that means for the South. The Dunedin Central Fire Station carried out a ceremonial drive to honour one of their own, and a Tapanui primary school teacher is among many no longer allowed onto school grounds. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced an opening up of the country's internal borders. From mid-December, people will be able to travel into and out of Auckland, but there are some restrictions.
This could be a frequent sight again from December the 15th.
I can announce that from the 15th of December, people travelling out of Auckland who have either been fully vaccinated or have a negative test 72 hours prior to departure will be able to leave Auckland and visit other parts of the country. This means you'll be able to enter or leave Auckland for any reason.
But those flying will need to be fully vaccinated or have a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours of departure, with the same rules applying to anyone leaving our biggest city. The Prime Minister says New Zealand's high vaccination rates have allowed this next phase to go ahead.
82% of New Zealanders are now fully vaccinated, compared to just 23% 3 months ago. And by mid-December, it's expected to be around 90%. That is phenomenal.
Ardern says Cabinet will confirm Auckland's move into the traffic light system on November 29, starting with the red level, with most of the country getting the green light. Meanwhile, Dunedin's Vincent George Travel is offering 174 seats on a single charter flight to Brisbane via Australia's quarantine-free travel corridor. The PM says there will be separate announcements regarding the international border. The opening up of domestic travel is expected to be in place until mid-January. Anyone breaking the travel guidelines, being unvaccinated or with a negative test result, facing a $1,000 fine. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A historic fire engine carried out a ceremonial drive past the Dunedin Central Fire Station on Tuesday to honour a stalwart of the New Zealand Fire Service. The historic engine carried the casket of Barry Gibson, a popular character across the region. He retired in 2013 as the East Otago Fire Risk Management Officer after a 41-year career in the fire service. Gibson started working as a full-time firefighter in Dunedin in the early 70s. He spent around 3/4 of his life on call or doing shift work serving the country's fire service. Vaccination mandates have come into force with unvaccinated education staff among those not allowed into their workplaces if they haven't received at least one dose. Tapanui primary school teacher Christine Livingston is no longer allowed onto her school site. This week, protesters rallied in Central Gore to show their support for these teachers.
Christine Livingston believes she is being fired. The Tapanui primary school teacher claims she is being forced out of her job in the education sector for not wanting to receive the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Livingston and others in a similar situation had the support of around 100 nurses, teachers and farmers at a rally in Gore yesterday.
We love the teachers, and we're loving our teachers whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. They should be allowed on the property.
The government's vaccination mandate kicked in today, meaning no unvaccinated staff or volunteers are allowed on school or early childhood education grounds. Livingston wants to be able to continue to work as a teacher and to choose whether or not to have the vaccine.
I believe it's my right, it's my human right to say no. If I was in chemotherapy, I would have the right to say no to the chemotherapy. So I'm taking my right, my human right to say no, I don't want this particular medical intervention.
The mandates for educators are largely supported by the sector and unions. The government says they're in place because children can't be vaccinated, so those eligible need to be. Health experts say vaccinated people are less likely to catch and spread the virus, reducing the number of COVID-19 cases in communities.
You know, it's my body and I get to choose that. Over all the years of all the other vaccinations, I have had the other vaccinations. I've been a follower of the rules, and this time round it just doesn't feel right for me to take this vaccine when I'm perfectly healthy.
It's still unclear how many schools across the South Island are short-staffed due to the mandate rules and to what extent. with the Minister of Education assessing just 4 applications for exemptions to the mandates. In South Otago, the South today.
The government's computer systems struggled to handle the volume of people signing up for their official vaccine passport recently. The mobile platform was overloaded with many people trying to sign up, getting a too many requests message. The My Vaccine Pass was launched on Wednesday as the official record of COVID-19 vaccination status in New Zealand ahead of the government's new traffic light system. Having digital confirmation of vaccinations is expected to help provide access to concerts, festivals, gyms and sports events. The pass can be downloaded to a phone or printed out and will be valid for 6 months. Anyone without a smartphone or access to a computer can call 0800 222 478 to request a My Vaccine Pass. Meanwhile, protests have continued around the country this week by people opposed to vaccination mandates, including this group of about 60 people in Cromwell. Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the University of Otago celebrated 100 years since the first radio broadcast was sent across New Zealand airwaves, and a road which has caused distress in Wanaka for more than 2 decades has finally been sealed. Welcome back. Wednesday officially marked 100 years since a physicist transmitted the country's first speech in music from the University of Otago. A century on, a team from the university's physics department have celebrated the milestone with lasers.
Transmitting a century-old recording through light.
And so to remember that, we built up a little similar type of a radio transmission, but not using radio waves, but using light.
It's 100 years ago today since University of Otago physics professor Robert Jack made the first transmission of voice and music in New Zealand. Associate Professor Harold Scheifel says Professor Jack's achievement showed the country what was possible with the new technology.
I think it really showed us that communication over a far distance through radio waves was possible, and people realized that communicating over the air is something really, really useful and powerful. And so from that point on, it just made really fast steps.
Professor Jack's original pioneering equipment, owned by the Otago University, is on loan to Toitu Settlers Museum. Dunedin's early audio achievements, the focus of the latest Talking Pictures web series hosted by Toitu curator Peter Reid.
He achieved this within his laboratory in May 1921, and then sought permission from the government to broadcast further afield. With permission finally granted, Professor Jack made the first in a series of transmissions of voice and music on the 17th of November 1921.
Many people followed the initial transmission, and from it our earliest radio stations, including what is now known as Radio Dunedin. It took another 50 years for New Zealand's private radio industry to be switched on. On the 20th of November 1971, one of the country's first fully commercial radio stations hit the airwaves in Dunedin as Radio Otago 4XO. Associate Professor Scheifel believes the next step from radio waves, including when they're sent through lasers, is into quantum transmission.
You're pointing towards a future bit of communication, which is quantum communication, or at least converting quantum information from different domains and keeping that quantum information intact throughout different communication channels. It is something where a number of researchers here at the University of Otago are working actively on.
The next steps in a continuously evolving technology is where anyone in a bedroom can broadcast over social media networks, amidst a plethora of registered broadcasters. In Dunedin, the South today.
Wanaka residents are looking forward to using their newly sealed road, which has been a common source of distress. Ballantyne Road has been in dire need of an upgrade for a long time, with advocates finally able to drive on the road as a result of their hard work.
This newly sealed road's been a long time coming. Ballantyne Road, which links Wanaka with State Highway 6 near the airport, has been the focus of debates for decades. A number of accidents and vehicle crashes over the years have been linked to the poor condition of what was a partly sealed road. More than $6 million was spent to upgrade the road, making locals very happy.
Well, we're delighted to have Ballantyne Road sealed now as an alternative access into Wanaka for a lot of the heavy traffic. It may alleviate what's happening on the main road, and that's a good thing.
A coroner's report recommended the road be sealed after a fatal crash which killed 17-year-old Jackson James Aitchison in 2016. Residents have been lobbying for a long time, with dust, poor visibility and uneven road surfaces impacting drivers, all factors which may have contributed to Aitchison's death.
This is the culmination of a lot of work from committees prior to my involvement, mounting up to some 20 years that we've been trying to get this project done.
And there's more improvements to come, with the Queenstown Lakes District Council and NZTA now working together on the intersection design for Ballantyne and Riverbank roads. In Wanaka, the South Today.
4 Otago University students have hit the right note in their quest for a music scholarship, backed by Dunedin-founded band 660. The internationally successful band recently bought their old flat at 660 Castle Street, aiming to give 4 students a year the chance to live there and be creative.
The first group of 4 Otago University students selected to live at one of North Dunedin's most famous addresses. 660 Castle Street was where Kiwiband 660 got their start. Next year's scholarship recipients already planning their musical dreams.
I'm sure there'll be some gigs, some music coming out of here next year.
Yeah,
hopefully that'll be the plan.
The band bought the famous address in July this year, with the goal of giving out 4 $10,000 scholarships each year to creative Otago students.
What's underneath is a scholarship that we're providing for students and for people like-minded who are interested in music, not necessarily studying music, but have an interest and maybe studying other stuff, to be able to get mentored by us and have the scholarship to help them realise their dreams.
TJ Zimba, Samuel Leeper, Tiona Hotu and Emily Bell Kerr have been selected as the first quartet of the 660 scholarships. Emily Bell Kerr tried keeping a hold of her emotions when she got the news.
I was just like so emotional. I just really could not believe it. It really, I don't know, it's an incredible opportunity. So as soon as I was trying to play it quite cool on the call, although watching it back I really didn't. But after the call ended, I was just like, yes, so amazing.
The scholarships include a $10,000 rent rebate, as well as mentoring from the band and access to the university's new recording studios. While all 4 of the recipients have a passion for music, only 2 are studying towards music-related degrees. The other pair plan to juggle their creative endeavours with a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Physiotherapy. In Dunedin, the South Today.
2 horror motorcycle fatalities in central Canterbury recently have highlighted how vulnerable motorcyclists are on our roads. Riders are 21 times more likely to be killed or seriously injured in a crash than a car motorist. In response, the Selwyn District Council has launched a major campaign to raise awareness of motorcyclists ahead of the summer riding season.
Nigel Ranson has one very good reason why people should heed motorcycle safety messages. His brother Mike was killed recently in a head-on crash on the Rakaya Bridge.
He's a good man, good father, good grandfather to his kids and grandkids and stuff. Good brother. Yeah, he'd give you the shirt off his back, help you out with whatever you needed. He loved his motorbike. He would probably rode the most out of all of us.
His 52-year-old brother was riding his motorbike from his home in Christchurch to Ashburton when he collided with a truck.
As far as we know, he's tried to pass on the bridge, which is stupid, and I don't know whether he just didn't look at the size of the line of cars he was trying to pass, but by the time he got to where he was, there was just nowhere for him to go. He couldn't go back in, he couldn't go to the other side. It's just a stupid mistake.
There have been 66 crashes involving motorcycles in the Selwyn district since 2017. Of these, 33 were serious accidents and 5 were fatal. To try and make motorists and motorcyclists more aware of the hazards, the Selwyn District Council has launched a motorcycle safety campaign. It includes a series of videos aimed at educating road users.
We really want to get the message through around looking out for each other on the roads. We want everyone to get where they're going safely, and just by taking the time to slow down and really look out for each other, it can really make the difference.
Ranson believes it's important to get these kinds of safety messages out there.
It's very dangerous on the motorbike out there some days. You know, I've had a few close calls, just people not looking, pulling out. Cars need to look twice for us, but we need to look, 3 times for them.
Ranson wants motorists to think twice before attempting passing manoeuvres and be in less of a hurry to reach their destination. In Selwyn, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a well-known jewellery store is shutting down after operating in Dunedin for more than 20 years. And one Dunedin company has created an icy treat for man's best friend. Welcome back. A well-known Dunedin jewellery workshop is shutting its doors. Lure Jewellery has been operating in the city for more than 20 years, but its operators have now decided it's time to embark on new challenges.
Collaborating for more than 20 years, Anne Cully and Rainer Banneker have been crafting inside Lure Jewellery's studio space in Stewart Street for more than 2 decades. Collaborating with fellow jewellers was Cully's inspiration to set up the workshop all those years ago.
Originally I set Lure up in 1995 as a jewellery workshop and a gallery, and so I invited other jewellers to send work to me, and so I exhibited their work and sold their work.
Before joining Lure Jewellery, Banneker had his own studio in central Otago, but loved the atmosphere Cully had created.
I very much enjoyed being here and having contact with the customers that you can actually sell it to. It's quite a different life.
And other jewellers too.
And other jewellers.
Yeah.
The pair have now decided the time has come to close up and move on. Cully will continue crafting jewellery from her home studio, while Banneker plans to return to central Otago to develop his creative work in a studio there. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A street-by-street mural of past and present music venues is being painted at the Dunedin Public Art Gallery. And the Dunedin sound history is being mapped by an artist who has an in-depth and first-hand experience of the subject matter.
From playing music to painting murals like this. Port Chalmers-based musician and artist Robert Scott has been part of Dunedin's music scene since the late 70s, a member of local bands The Bats and The Clean. Now he's leading a project to chart the largely lost music venues at the heart of the Dunedin sound. The experienced bass guitarist and vocalist is now using his artistic skills for the mural, after being commissioned to capture this wrinkle in time.
The Hocken had been planning this, I presume, for some time. They approached me to see if I'd be interested in doing a big mural of the venues. So I thought about it for at least 2 seconds and said yes.
The giant artwork is part of nationwide celebrations for the 40th anniversary of Flying Nun. The music label was started by Roger Shepherd and is heavily associated with early 1980s Dunedin music.
These are all venues that were used by bands, original bands in the 80s and early 90s. So we just got together a list and sort of checked that they were in the right place, and I did a lot of research on how they looked at the time, and the Hocken have been wonderful in finding images for me to check that they're the right look and stuff, and did a big A1 poster first that got digitised, and then we projected that on this wall here and sketched it all in.
The first release on Flying Nun Records was Christchurch band The Pin Group's song Ambivalence. But Dunedin bands The Clean and The Chills became flag bearers for what became known as the Dunedin sound. Robert Scott says some venues remain in Dunedin and some of the structures still stand.
The buildings, the majority of these are still around, but they're not as venues or the same construction. A lot of them have been changed, but a lot of them are still around. You can still see these places. They're just not working as venues anymore.
He's aiming to complete the mural by Friday, telling the stories of Dunedin musicians and scenes involved with the Flying Nun label since its creation. In Dunedin, the South Today.
As summer heats up, so does our love affair with ice cream. New Zealanders are among the biggest eaters of ice cream in the world, enjoying around 28 litres per person per year. And now a Dunedin company has come up with a special version designed as a reward for man's best friend.
A frozen treat that's just too cool for humans. This is Scoop Dog Ice Cream, a special frozen dessert product developed specifically for our canine friends.
Well, humans are notorious for giving dogs their food, which isn't good for them.
Ice cream can help dogs cool down on a hot day, but regular versions aren't good for our pooches. So the team spent 6 months working with a food producer to develop a dog-friendly alternative, replacing sugar with natural honey powder, and the main ingredient,
it's goat's milk rather than cow's milk, so it's easier for them to digest.
And as for the flavours, well, there's no lamb or beef just yet, but there is one variety you won't have seen in your local ice cream parlour.
So we've got bacon, which is a classic for dogs, and then our other flavours mimic human flavours, so we've got vanilla, banana, carob, which is the dog equivalent of chocolate, and we've just released gingerbread for Christmas.
Humans can eat the product, although it's not designed for them, especially with some of the future flavour options.
We have been asked for roadkill, so watch this space.
The Dunedin company launched their doggy ice cream earlier this month in pet supply stores and online retailers. And there's one important difference that means this ice cream can be couriered around the country.
So we've come up with a dry mix. When it gets to your house, you add water, you mix it with an egg beater or one of your handheld mixers, and you pop it in the freezer, and in about 5 hours' time it's ready.
The frozen product's been lapped up by every four-legged taste tester so far, and while there's plenty of meat treats available for man's best friend, Kennedy is confident Scoop Dog Ice Cream has found a sweet spot in the Kiwi market. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Young Dunedin actor Daniel Honey recently performed prose penned by Shakespeare in front of a crowd in Wellington. Little did he know his performance in that competition was set to take him to the home of Shakespeare in the UK.
But lo, what career from a Year 12 student blossoms?
I was part of the Sheila Wynne Shakespeare Festival for 2021, and so that is basically a national competition from schools all around New Zealand, where we all perform either a 5-minute or a 15-minute Shakespeare scene.
Year 12 pupil Daniel Honey gave such a sweet performance of William Shakespeare's work, he's been selected to travel to London as part of an elite group of young actors.
And so 24 people from there would be selected to be part of the YSC, which is the Young Shakespeare Company, which is going to London next year in July.
The King's High School pupil has succeeded in a long run of local and national Shakespeare competitions and is excited by the prospect of performing in London. He could have gone to the UK last year after falling for the works of William Shakespeare, but the plague played its fickle part.
I actually fell in love with Shakespeare last year when doing a scene with my brother, also for the Shakespeare competition, where we did a gravedigger scene from, I think, Hamlet, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. It's one of them, and so we won the regional competition in that scene, but unfortunately could not go to nationals due to COVID restrictions.
He says the Globe Theatre is one of the most famous acting theatres in the world and is looking forward to the privilege of performing there. Daniel Honey is due to tread the famous boards in July 2022. In Dunedin, The South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz, and you can follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe to be notified of Southern news as it happens. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.